Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Market Wrap. So I am still in Philly. I did not make it home last weekend. My wife was fly fishing with my son Matthew in Colorado. He's staying in Colorado for the summer, working as a guide in Estes Park. Great life he's got going there. No chance mom was gonna go a whole summer without seeing her cub. So they had a blast. I got to stay in Philly, got caught up all before the holiday weekend. So 3 watches I love this week, and the first one is a Blancpain. Now Blancpain's not a brand we talk about that much. I'm not the biggest Blancpain fan, but this particular one, the 50 Fathoms, the tribute to No Rad, is an awesome 500-piece limited edition, kind of the classic Blancpain remake. It's at a perfect size, a 40 millimeter, just got a great look. I love having one of these in the collection. Now the second piece is a Patek Philippe, and the 5524G, the Pilot, a watch that everybody's familiar with, except this particular one has a very tiny stamp on it that says Tiffany. Tiffany stamped Pateks are super collectible. I don't think they're gonna be around forever. Eventually, I would assume Patek will stop doing this. So I think this is something you're gonna buy, put away, just a great piece to have. And the last piece is actually 3 pieces. It's an unusual set. It's a Louis Erard / Alain Silberstein kind of combination. It's the Triptique Set. They made 78 of these sets. Silberstein is something I loved going back to the 80s. He's done this great partnership. I think they're fun, they're cool, they're unique. Just an awesome piece and the whole great collection. You get 3 for 1. So last week we devoted an entire episode to Rolex, and it was a big hit. So I thought we would focus on another brand this week, one of my all-time favorites, Audemars Piguet. Now, AP is one of the most iconic old brands, but it's become one of the most cutting-edge brands, certainly of the majors. I love AP for a number of reasons. Now, first of all, and probably foremost, they are independent. Now, today when people say independence, we think of boutique brands. But AP is really the classic big brand. They produce about 40,000 watches a year, and arguably the most independent mindset in the industry. It's really in their DNA. They're still owned by the Audemars family. The chairwoman of the board, Yasmine Audemars, is a legend in the watch world. They make classic, iconic watches, but they also push the boundaries of watchmaking and have done this for decades. They've always had groundbreaking, innovative designs, have never hesitated to take risks in the market. And we thought it would be fun to look at 3 of my favorite APs that would kind of show what AP is all about. So starting with number 3, we're going to talk about the 25720 BA. Now this is what they call a star wheel. It was introduced in 1991. They actually copied a wandering hours clock that was made for Pope Alexander XII in 1656. No one had ever attempted to put this kind of complication in a wristwatch. It took AP 2 years, and they eventually received a patent on the movement. Now, like many APs, it was not immediately commercially successful, but extremely unique, a cutting-edge design, just a great display, and something that's really become iconic for being outside of the box, and something AP does just amazingly well. So number 2 on the list is the 26356 PT. It's a Jules Audemars skeleton minute repeater, just a classic design. High watchmaking has always been a cornerstone of Audemars, especially after they took over Renaud and Patek. We can see the hand of Giulio Pepe, who started his work in the skeleton department of AP. Now, they famously did great complications. It's a jump hour, a minute repeater, a skeleton dial, and this just to me screams classic AP. I think it's truly underappreciated. I think most people think of AP as more sport watches, but they do some of the best high complications in the industry, and they're an exceptional value today. So now a number 1 pick was an easy pick. For AP, it is the most classic watch. It's the 5402 ST, specifically the A series. Now, most of us know the story. So back in 1969, Seiko introduced the quartz Astron, and the world was predicting the end of the Swiss fine watch industry. In 1971, as the story goes, Georges Goulet realized his business was in trouble. He was the CEO, he needed a bold move. He was getting pressure from the outside, sales were slipping. They just weren't focusing on dress watches. So he decided he needed a sports watch that his clients could wear every day. And he hired a young Gerald Genta to design a watch for him. Now, as the completion of the story goes, he gave his vision to Genta, and the next day was presented with the sketches. A year later, they launched the 5402 ST. Now, the design by Genta was one of the most complicated designs in the industry at the time. The bracelet was made by Guy Ferrez, the best bracelet maker in Switzerland, and had a price tag that was crazy, 3,300 Swiss francs. Now, this was more expensive than most gold watches of the day. It was more expensive than a gold Patek. It was 10 times the price of a Rolex steel sports model. Goulet put the entire company at risk. He ordered 1,000 cases. Now, this was a time when the entire production of AP was 5,000 pieces. And after a kind of tepid reception in 1972, and some mocking from his competitors, a few years later, they realized they had a hit. And just a few short years later, Patek Philippe could see the shift in the market was happening, and they responded. So they hired Gerald Genta to design a sports watch to compete with the Royal Oak. And suddenly the Nautilus was born in 1976. AP not only repositioned themselves, but the entire Swiss industry by building an incredibly intricate design, expensive sports watch, creating a whole new category of wristwatch. The design has gone through many iterations through the years, different sizes, different thicknesses, but one could argue this might be the most important watch design in history, and it was done overnight. So where do we see AP going from here? 2 years ago, they took the very bold move of closing most of the dealers and creating a whole direct-to-consumer model. Many in the industry thought they would fail. They have one of the most dynamic CEOs in Francois Benahamias, and they've done nothing but bold moves since he took the reins. Code 1159, this year's Marvel. They've never been afraid to make waves, and not every decision was always commercially successful. But by combining the core Royal Oaks, complications, ceramics, they become one of the most dynamic brands in the industry. And the market has responded. They make 40,000 pieces in annual production. It gets swallowed up almost immediately. The direct-to-consumer model is working. Discounting doesn't exist. Most models, including all the Royal Oaks, are trading over retail. But I believe there's still an opportunity in the brand. Many complications, especially the grand complications, have not really taken off and had a run-up. For years, the Star Wheel was overlooked. These minute repeaters, these jump hours, they're spectacular pieces. They traded a fraction of retail. Edward Piguet models go for bargains. And then there's these vintage Royal Oaks. So next year is the 50th anniversary of my favorite watch, the 5402. Now, this is the company who's the most promotional minded in the industry, and they have the biggest anniversary of one of the most iconic watches. So you can bet it'll be amazing. They have already announced the 15202 ST has been discontinued, and I expect we will see the biggest launch since 1972, and I expect it'll turn heads and turn the market on its head. I would be buying up Royal Oaks, Grand Complications, and specialty pieces, as I expect 2022 will be a banner year for Audemars Piguet. So that was this week's Market Wrap. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next week.